Niccolò Machiavelli wasn't a king, a soldier, or a billionaire. He was an observer, a man who watched rulers rise and fall, betray and be betrayed, win and lose kingdoms. His book, The Prince, wasn't written as poetry or philosophy. It was a manual, a cold guide for those who wanted to hold on to power in a dangerous world. And here's the truth. His lessons are just as relevant today as they were in the 1500s. Because power hasn't changed. Human psychology hasn't changed. This is not about politics. It's about you, at your job, in your relationships, in your negotiations. Machiavelli's principles expose the raw, uncomfortable truth. People are not as loyal, kind, or honest as we want them to be. And the sooner you see that, the stronger you become. So let's begin with the first law of Machiavellian psychology. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few know what you really are. Men in general judge more from appearances than from reality. All men have eyes, but few have the gift of penetration. Machiavelli understood one of the darkest truths of human psychology. People don't care about your inner truth. They care about the mask you wear. They care about the performance. Centuries before modern psychology, he described what we now call impression management and confirmation bias. People see what they expect to see. And once they form that impression, they rarely dig deeper. Look around you. At work, the man who dresses sharp, speaks with authority, and carries himself with confidence. He gets chosen for leadership, even if someone else quietly does the hard work behind the scenes. In politics, image is everything. A smile, a handshake, a photo op. These can outweigh years of policy. In dating, the first seconds decide whether there will be a second conversation. Charm beats character, at least in the beginning. Machiavelli warns, if you believe truth will save you, you will be disappointed. People are not patient investigators. They are quick judges. That's why he wrote, everyone sees what you appear to be. And here's the danger. If you look weak, people assume you are weak. If you look uncertain, they assume you are lost. If you look poor, they assume you have nothing to offer. But if you master appearances, you control the narrative. That is why powerful leaders stage everything: the suit, the timing, the words, even the silence. They know perception is stronger than fact. Now think about your life. You may be brilliant at your craft, but if you don't signal confidence, the world overlooks you. You may be kind, but if you don't project strength, others take advantage. You may be trustworthy, but if you don't appear capable, no one will hand you responsibility. Remember this: the crowd judges the mask, not the man. If you don't design your image, the world will design it for you. And that's why Chapter 1 is the foundation. Power begins not with reality, but with how reality is dressed. It is better to be feared than loved, if you can't be both. Men have less scruple in offending one who makes himself loved than one who makes himself feared. This is one of Machiavelli's most famous and most misunderstood lessons. On the surface, it sounds cruel, almost barbaric. But when you strip it down, it's not about cruelty. It's about control, about what truly holds human loyalty. Love is warm, but fragile. It depends on feelings, and feelings shift with time, convenience, or personal gain. Fear, on the other hand, is consistent. It's anchored in self-preservation. and human beings will go to great lengths to avoid pain or punishment. People fear losing what they have more than they desire, gaining something new. Machiavelli knew that love may inspire loyalty for a time, but fear cements obedience in the long run. Love is held by a chain of obligation, which, men being selfish, is broken whenever it serves their advantage. But fear is maintained by a dread of punishment which never fails. So what does this mean for a ruler, a boss, a parent, or even a partner? It means that if you rely only on love, you make yourself vulnerable. People will adore you when it benefits them, but abandon you when a better offer comes along. But if you cultivate fear, not terror but respect, you create a boundary they dare not cross. Think about the workplace. A boss who is only liked may struggle to enforce deadlines. Employees laugh, joke, and take liberties. But a boss who commands a degree of fear through authority, discipline, and the willingness to enforce consequences gets results. Or think about relationships. Many parents want to be loved by their children, but without some degree of fear, the fear of disappointing, the fear of punishment, children test limits endlessly. The balance of love and fear keeps the household stable. History overflows with examples. Take Alexander the Great. His soldiers loved him, yes, but they also feared him. They knew disobedience meant death, even as they admired his charisma. That balance of fear and love carried him across the world. Now compare him to the last Roman emperor, Romulus Augustulus, a boy who was adored by his court but feared by no one. He was swept aside with barely a struggle because affection without authority inspires no loyalty when times grow hard. But here's the subtlety. Machiavelli warned that fear must never turn into hatred. Fear creates respect. Hatred creates rebellion. A prince ought to inspire fear in such a way that, if he does not win love, he avoids hatred. This is the balance every powerful figure must strike. To be firm without being cruel. To be feared for your strength, not despised for your malice. A parent who disciplines may be feared, but if they are fair, they are not hated. A boss who enforces rules firmly may be feared, but if they are just, they are respected. So what does this mean for you? In your career, don't chase being everyone's favorite. Earn respect, set boundaries. Make it clear that while you are fair, you cannot be taken lightly. In friendships, don't be afraid to say no. People may like you more if you're always agreeable, but they will respect you more if you're not afraid to disappoint them when necessary. And in leadership of any kind, remember that kindness without authority leads to chaos, while authority without kindness leads to hatred. The art lies in balance. Machiavelli's reminder cuts deep. Love may fade. Fear endures. And though it is noble to want both, if you must choose, choose fear. Fear protects you when love breaks. Respect sustains you when affection disappears. This is not cruelty. It is strategy. And it is why the psychology of power often leans toward fear. Not because it feels good, but because it works. A wise ruler cannot and should not keep his word when it is against his interest. The promise given was a necessity of the past. The word broken is a necessity of the present. Machiavelli shocked his readers when he wrote this. For centuries, morality and honor were seen as the cornerstones of leadership. Knights swore oaths. Kings promised justice. Priests preached honesty. But Machiavelli cut through the illusion. He said plainly, "People break promises when it suits them, and a ruler must be prepared to do the same." Modern psychology agrees. Studies show that most people lie, not out of malice, but out of convenience. White lies smooth over conversations. Strategic lies protect interests. And when the cost of telling the truth becomes too high, even the honest bend. This is called strategic deception, the use of lies not for cruelty, but for advantage. Machiavelli argued that rulers who cling blindly to promises set themselves up for ruin. Why? Because human beings are fickle. They betray, deceive, and act selfishly. If you hold yourself to an impossible standard of honesty while everyone else bends the rules, you become the easiest target. To explain this, Machiavelli used a metaphor. A prince must imitate both the lion and the fox. For the lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. The lion is strength, powerful, direct, and fearless. But the lion is also predictable, easy to outwit with cunning. The fox, on the other hand, is clever, deceptive, and able to escape danger through trickery. A great leader, Machiavelli said, must combine both, the force of the lion and the cunning of the fox. This is not about lying recklessly. It is about knowing when deception protects your survival. Take Ferdinand of Spain. He rose to power not simply through armies, but through calculated deceit. He promised peace while preparing for war. He made alliances he never intended to keep if they no longer served him. To his enemies, he appeared trustworthy. To his allies, he appeared loyal. In reality, he was always calculating his next move. And it worked. His kingdom expanded while less cunning rulers fell. Contrast that with leaders who clung to honesty at all costs. They were predictable, easy to outmaneuver, and ultimately betrayed by those less noble but more practical. Now let's bring this to daily life. At work, you may promise to support a colleague, but if supporting them damages your own future, you must learn when to withdraw, carefully and strategically. Blind loyalty is often punished. In negotiations, you may suggest flexibility, but you don't have to reveal your true limits until the deal is sealed. In relationships, you may offer words of comfort, even if they are softened versions of the truth. Sometimes, survival of the bond requires tact rather than bluntness. Does this mean you should lie constantly? Liars destroy their credibility. Machiavelli's point was sharper. Promises are tools. Keep them when they serve you. Break them when they destroy you. A wise man is judged not by how often he tells the truth, but by how effectively he protects his interests. The danger, of course, is balance. Too much deception and you become hated, untrustworthy, isolated. But too little, and you become predictable, vulnerable, and easily manipulated. The art of power is in knowing when honesty serves you and when deception saves you. Remember the fox and the lion. Strength without cunning is stupidity. Cunning without strength is weakness. But together, they make survival possible. Machiavelli's reminder cuts through the illusions of morality. The world is full of promises. Power belongs to those who know when to keep them and when to break them. Deception is not always betrayal. Sometimes it is survival, and survival is the highest law of power. Fortune is the arbiter of half the things we do, leaving the other half or so to be controlled by ourselves. This is one of Machiavelli's most controversial metaphors. crude in its language, brutal in its imagery, yet clear in its meaning. Fortune favors boldness. In Machiavelli's world, luck was not a gentle goddess, it was a wild force, dangerous, unpredictable, and resistant to timid men. To control fortune, one must act decisively, aggressively, even ruthlessly. Modern psychology echoes this through risk-taking behavior. Research shows that people who act boldly, who seize opportunities quickly, often outperform those who hesitate, even if the bold make more mistakes along the way. Why? Because the timid lose by default. They wait too long, they miss the chance, and they let others dictate the terms. This is tied to what psychologists call action bias, the human tendency to prefer doing something rather than nothing when faced with uncertainty. Machiavelli understood that in the realm of power, hesitation is death. Fortune rewards those who move. It is better to act and repent than not to act and regret. Consider Julius Caesar once again. When he crossed the Rubicon River, he broke Roman law, declaring war on the Senate itself. A timid man would have waited, negotiated, or retreated. Caesar acted. That boldness reshaped the Roman world. Or think of entrepreneurs today. Steve Jobs bet Apple's future on products no one thought would succeed. The iPhone, the iPad. Bold, risky, nearly reckless. Yet fortune smiled on him, and Apple became a giant. History punishes hesitation and rewards decisiveness. Napoleon rose through daring gambles. Alexander the Great charged into impossible battles and won. Even Trump, in modern politics, built his identity on bold declarations others would never dare to make. Fortune may be unpredictable, but she bends to those who dare to seize her. Machiavelli gave another metaphor. Fortune is like a flooding river. When it is calm, people forget its power. They grow lazy, unprepared. But when the storm comes, the river floods, sweeps away homes, drowns the weak. Only those who built levees and acted boldly in advance can control its force. Fortune shows her power where valor is not prepared to resist her. In life, this means preparing for storms before they arrive. It means acting boldly when opportunities open. Because once the waters rise, hesitation will drown you. What does this mean for you? In your career, it means taking risks before you feel ready. Apply for the role, pitch the idea, start the business. Waiting for certainty is a trap, because certainty never comes. In relationships, it means making the move, speaking your truth, asking for what you want. The timid wait for the perfect moment, but the bold create it. In negotiations, it means striking decisively. If you hesitate, the other side sets the terms. If you move with confidence, you shape the game. Now, Machiavelli was not a fool. He admitted that fortune controls nearly half of life. Wars, plagues, accidents, the twists of fate. We cannot master them all. But he insisted the other half belongs to us. And that half is enough to change the world. Fortune is the arbiter of half of our actions, but she still leaves us to control the other half. In other words, you cannot control everything, but you can control how boldly you face what comes. Fortune does not wait. She rewards the daring, the decisive, the bold. Timidity builds excuses. Boldness builds empires. And that is why Machiavelli declared, in the storm of power, fortune favors not the cautious, but the courageous. Men are less concerned with offending one who makes himself loved than one who makes himself feared. He who builds on the people builds on mud. This chapter is the most uncomfortable of all. Because here Machiavelli unmasks human nature with ruthless honesty. He tells us, people are selfish, people are forgetful, people are loyal only as long as it serves them. And if you build your power only on their kindness or gratitude, you build on sand. Modern psychology agrees. Experiments in behavioral economics show that people are not consistently rational or loyal. They respond to incentives in the moment. Gratitude fades quickly. Fear of loss or hope of gain drives more behavior than past favors. This is called the reciprocity gap, the idea that humans repay kindness less than we expect and abandon loyalty faster than we'd like. Machiavelli saw it centuries ago. He said plainly, if you rely on the goodness of people, you will be betrayed. For a ruler, this meant one thing: stability must come before kindness. A prince who is too generous weakens his treasury. A ruler who forgives endlessly invites rebellion. A leader who expects loyalty in return for past kindness will be disappointed when men chase their own interests. Men sooner forget the death of their father than the loss of their patrimony. In other words, people may mourn a loved one, but take away their money or property, and you will see where their true loyalty lies. History is filled with leaders who believed kindness was enough. Take the last French king, Louis XVI. He wanted to be loved. He hesitated to enforce discipline, hoping goodwill would calm the revolution. Instead, his softness bred contempt. The guillotine ended his reign. Now look at rulers who valued stability. Augustus Caesar, after decades of civil war, knew Rome needed order more than affection. He gave bread, games, and prosperity, but never loosened control. People may have whispered, some may have disliked him, but they obeyed, and Rome thrived. So what does this mean for you? At work, if you believe being endlessly nice will secure loyalty, you will be used. Colleagues will smile, take advantage of your generosity, and walk away when something better comes along. Respect matters more than affection. In relationships, if you believe love alone guarantees stability, you will be blindsided. Without boundaries, without consequences, affection is not enough. Stability requires strength, not just kindness. In leadership, if you try to please everyone, you end up pleasing no one. Decisions require firmness. People may dislike you in the moment, but they will respect the order you create. Machiavelli's language is harsh, but his point is survival. The prince, or any leader, must be prepared to act against kindness when stability is at risk. He must be ready to punish betrayal, enforce rules, and secure order, even if it makes him unpopular. It is much safer to be feared than loved if one must choose. Love is fragile. Kindness wins hearts, but strength secures thrones. If you must choose, build not on affection, but on stability. Because in the end, the world does not remember who was loved. They remember who lasted. A prince who wishes to maintain his state must learn how not to be good, and to use that knowledge as necessity requires. Machiavelli's lessons are not about cruelty. They are about survival. He reminds us that appearances shape perception. Fear outlasts love. Deception protects. Boldness wins fortune. And stability is built on strength, not kindness. It sounds harsh, but it is real. Modern psychology confirms what he saw. People judge the mask, loyalty fades, and fortune rewards the daring. The point is not to become ruthless. The point is to stop being naive, to see the world as it is, not as you wish it to be. The world is not moved by who deserves power. It is moved by who understands power. So ask yourself, are you walking through life blind to these laws? Or are you ready to use them? If you want more scripts that strip power and psychology down to their raw truth, subscribe to this channel.